You're listening to Africa Business Radio, where you get up-to-date insights on the Africa business landscape. Log on to www.africabusinessradio.com. Your favorite shows are available on podcasts. Download them on our website and mobile app. Africa Business Radio, towards a profitable Africa.
You're listening to Lagos Landlord, an exclusive podcast for real estate investors and players in the real estate industry, with your host, Amara Musa.
Hello, hello, hello. The sun is bright, the birds are chirping, and the skies are clear. Welcome to another episode of Lagos Landlord. My name is Amara Musa, your host, taking you around the real estate industry in Lagos and the global market. So today's episode, we will be discussing the effects of rising cost of building materials on property developments. Now, after weeks of the national lockdown earlier this year, construction firms and property developers that jump-started operations in most Nigerian cities were alarmed by a sharp spike in building materials. The effect of the lockdown, coupled with inflation and rise in building material costs, continued to cripple businesses in major cities and affecting construction workers. However, as the year has progressed, some of the construction firms and property developers in various parts of Nigeria are gradually getting back on their feet now. It is fair to say that the pandemic contributed to the spike, but that's not the full story. The rise has been on a steady incline for 10 years, which with no doubt threatens the performance of the construction industry as a whole. And as we know it, that despite the fact that the sector is regarded as a catalyst for growth and its performance serves as an indicator of the nation's economy, it is still an upcoming industry. Now, building materials contribute immensely to the quality and cost of housing, and an increase in the prices of building materials definitely has a multiplier effect on the industry. Now, the reason that I felt that this was an important topic to address was because in spite of the past conversation on the cost of building materials in Nigeria, little is actually discussed about the actual implications of the rise in cost on the construction industry. So we know the price is rising, but what's the effect on the markets? How are developers handling it? How is supply affected? And most importantly, how does that affect you, the current or future buyer? Can you still afford what you thought you could afford a year ago? We certainly have plenty to talk about with the experts in the building. Today I have with me Mr. Dayo Olaya, the Managing Director of Dayola Property Development Company Limited, popularly known as DPDC, and Mr. Okpe Ibrahim, Operations Lead at IAP Building Solutions. Believe me when I say that today's conversation is going to be insightful, impactful, and very interesting. See you after the break.
We are the wind in the sails of your business. We are your compass. Chart your course towards your targets. Africa Business Radio, towards a profitable Africa.
All right, welcome back. So just before you left on the break, I was telling you that we're talking to experts in the building, Mr. Dayo Olaya, the Managing Director of DPDC, and Mr. Okpe Ibrahim, Operations Lead at IAP Building Solutions. Hello, gentlemen. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good.
We're doing okay. I'm doing okay.
Okay, that's Okpe's voice. Rash and strong. All right, so let's get into the business of the day. I ask everyone this question. Mr. Olaya, tell us 3 words that describe you, please.
Okay. Audacious.
Okay.
Practical. And result-oriented.
I think since we started this show, we haven't heard those ones. We always hear ambitious, motivated, strong-willed, but trust Mr. Olaya to be a bit different. Okay. 3 words that describe you. And ambitious is cool too. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. To be doing something great in Nigeria, you have to be ambitious. You have to be consistent.
Yes.
So consistent will describe me.
Okay, yeah.
I'm finicky about delivering excellence everywhere I go. Not just trying to collect the money, but also deliver value to the clients. I'm also a person of high integrity. So what you pay for is what you're going to get.
Okay.
Those are the 3 things.
Was that 3 or 2?
That was 3. There was finicky about delivering excellence. There was integrity, and there was consistent.
Okay. So finicky, integrity.
If we could go on, I would still say ambitious,
Okay. But those are your 3 prime. Yes, you do. Mr. Olaya, tell us a bit about you and what you do. What does DPDC do?
Okay. I'm an agent surveyor by profession. But I specialized in property development, much more, and property management. DPDC is in the business of creating value through real estate. Okay. We do development. Most of our developments are developments we do that we try to add value to. Most of them are serviced apartments, serviced development. So DPDC basically facilitates real estate developments, and we get to do marketing of it. That's what we do basically.
Fantastic. And what about you, Mr. Olaya? You didn't tell us who you are. Well, what about you? Tell us a bit about you.
About me? Okay.
What do you like to do? What do you like to do for fun?
What I like to do for fun? I like to enjoy myself for fun.
Okay, you like to enjoy yourself. That's subjective.
Yeah, work. I enjoy my work a lot. Yeah. So most of my time, I'm in my work. You call me 24/7. I'm in my work. Sometimes in the middle of the night, I remember something. I'm sending messages to my staff in the office. Okay. About certain things that just came up in my mind. So I enjoy my work, so it takes a lot of my time. Okay. Apart from that, yeah.
So Mr. Olaya is a workaholic for fun. Amazing. Okay, what about you? Tell us about you, what you do, and what IAP does.
Okay. Let me start with what IAP does. IAP is a building finishing company. Okay. So we kind of come in when the building is done with the carcass, foundation, whatever. We now do the windows, we can do partitions, we do all sorts of glass solutions, roofing solutions, which are like long span, stone coats, and all that. So we also do doors, different types of doors, Turkish doors, security doors. So basically taking your building from carcass to finish. And we also do fit outs as well for some clients, not for everyone really. Okay. We have a factory in Ogudu, so that's where we work out from, in a sense.
So technically, you both are like clients to each other.
Exactly. Like we work for people like Mr. Dayo.
Okay.
And we work for people like you as well.
Exactly. It's a give and take relationship.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Okay, so right into the business of the day. Mr. Olaya, I'm going to start with you. Now, we're talking about rising material cost. I mean, I know I took a screenshot of this a while ago. If I can just quickly find it. But basically, it was a table that showed the rise in cost of building materials. And the way, for instance, things like cement, it's been going up for the past 10 years. Like every single year. And it'll be nice to know what the immediate implications of rising material costs, the effect on that on property development. What's been happening?
Thanks, Amara. It has a direct impact on it. Meaning that it's factors of production. These elements are part of production of real estate. in producing houses. And when you have continuous increase in those factors, it automatically has a direct effect, meaning that cost of building has gone up over the last couple of 10 years that you said, and it's on the rise as we speak. We also understand the fact that it has to do with the foreign exchange in some instance, but of course the Nigerian developers basically have found ways to try and go around it. But in the last couple of years now, we found out that with cement going up, sand going up, which are the fundamentals of the build itself. Not to talk of the ones that are even impacted from imports.
Yes.
Because some solutions have been found to resolve some of those issues like tiling and other things. But,
right.
But with cement that we do locally, with the continuous rise in that price, it's having a direct impact on our value. So it's not making it more affordable, even though we're finding ways around it, but it's not. So I would say straight away that it has a direct impact on it.
Okay, it has a direct impact on value. I think that was the key thing for me there. Right. And if something is having a direct impact on value, it means it's either you have to spend more money to continue delivering the value that you've been giving, or you step it down a notch and give less.
That would happen in some instance. Where what will happen invariably is that we're used to big spaces in Nigeria.
Okay.
Over the years, apartments having large spaces, rooms having minimum.
I like a big living room.
Absolutely. But the way things are going with cost, because it's direct, it's what you put into production per square meter that you're going to have to sell per square meter. So if you want a big living room, you have to pay more for a big living room. So if Mr. A has a development that has smaller living rooms, their houses are cheaper, and Mr. B has bigger living rooms and bigger rooms with more expensive, then the choice that becomes yours. So invariably, we will find where development begin to shrink in terms of size and begin to get homes in the United Kingdom where you have smaller spaces compared to what we're used to, which is the American style with large rooms and large apartments and all that.
Okay, interesting. Now, to even take this conversation a bit further, we actually need to understand what the causes are of rising cost of building materials. I think I'll ask you that. Okay,
so it's really a matter of production. Is Nigeria a producing economy or a consuming economy? So that's the first thing. The balance is always down to, we're importing more than we're exporting. It's a lot of pressure on the dollar. We all know the dollar story anyway. So it's Nigeria it's a funny situation because although we have issues with the dollar and that's what everybody blames for the increase in cost of everything, which is legitimate, we also have cost of labor that is actually the most affordable. So you are seeing because the demand that is going to China now, China is looking at Nigeria as, okay, labor is cheaper here. Why don't we take production to Nigeria? That's why you have people making glass in Nigeria now.
Interesting.
Right now, there's glass production in Nigeria. They've started doing PVC. They are coming, but they're not coming as they should because infrastructure is still a little bit weak.
Issue.
The cost of production is higher here because there's no electricity, security. The things they have to pay for, they don't have to pay for where they're coming from. So they're balancing it out. But labor by the hour is cheaper in Nigeria.
Is it so cheap that it takes out all the other factors?
It's cheap. It's so cheap that it takes out all the other factors. Actually, because
it's horrible.
It's only the thing is you can't get factory workers here. Nobody can compete with our labor for factory workers
because we don't do per hour.
We don't do per hour, and our labor laws are not very strong. They can be easily compromised with Nigerian factor. That's just going to keep it real, So, Mr. Dio and most developers are the ones that have to solve and provide all those unique solutions, really, because the developers will think. All they're thinking about, obviously, is not just to build because they have to sell. It's two games for them. They have to build and they have to sell. It's not just building; it's also sales. Now, he made a very valid point.
Well, that's where I come in.
Exactly, because you're the one that has to come up with unique solutions to sell as well. So it's just very interesting, but very valid point was square meter. Everything is about size, because the more square meter, the more tiles, the more everything, more sockets per kind of linear meter, all those things come into play. So it's actually, that's another angle I never really thought of. But you're talking about land costs. Everything is square meter, really. So you're building up, then you're now expanding on the first base, etc. So even though I'm not a developer, I've always obviously looked at my clients and I know what they're doing. I have to key into their solution as well. I have to provide them with unique solutions. Talking about the different types of window series. Okay, what are you going to do? What's your target market? So we have to know their strategy so we can match up with them. Because it's not just about, you need window. It's not that simple. There are different types of window, the different types of window systems as well. So it's all about trying to match up with their strategy, but the end result is being able to supply the market what it needs without compromising on quality. You can compromise on space a little bit, but you should never compromise on quality, because in the end, this house has to be up for a long period of time. You understand? So
I think I really like that last statement you made, being able to supply the market what it needs without compromising on quality.
Exactly.
And which brings me to my next question for Mr. Olaya. How has a rise in the cost of building materials actually affected the quality used in building so far? Have you seen? Have you had to stop using some things and replace it with certain things?
With the increase in prices of material affected, well, like I said, space, what you have to do is keep the quality, because that's important, because you're building homes that are supposed to last for 50 years minimum. Okay. So you rather keep the quality and reduce the spaces to meet the target market, because at the end of the day, you're building for people and you need to know where the market is at every point in time to be able to deliver what is necessary. So in instances where you're supposed to build a room that's supposed to be 20 square meters, you build smaller rooms.
But you keep it solid.
Correct. Because that is what you're selling. That's the brand you're trying to put out there. You don't want to go into the mix where you're building things that are not of good quality. Quality is very, very important. Okay, quality is key.
And Okwe, I know people like quality things. As well as Nigerians, we definitely like quality things. Now, I don't know whether you provide a line of credit for your customers. And if so, has the rise in materials or prevailing economic factors actually affected the ability to fulfill loan facilities?
Let me put it like this, so it depends on how many times I've had relationship with that. I can't just start off a business relationship
with credit
and say, I'm going to do it for you for free. Automatically, obviously, I'm going to, how would I be able to provide and buy materials?
Right.
So mine is not just a service industry, obviously. So I have to buy materials, I have to buy glass. But I've been working with a lot of brands out there. I work for Dillon, I work for Design Protocol, I do a lot of stuff for...
And maybe DPDC in the future.
Exactly. Mr. Dai already talking. So, what happens is, we've been working for some of these guys for like 5 years or so. So obviously they tell me go to that site and let's start off that work, use that particular window series. I can start off with the elementary, like all the subframe and stuff. It's not always about money, it's about building strong relationships.
Yeah, but have you found that because of the economic factors, there's been a slowdown in payment, or you're getting a lot of people owing? How's that going? How's your pocket going up there?
Let me be honest, receivables has become sort of an issue after COVID. But interesting. I'm very understanding of the situation of this year, which is NSARS, this is COVID, these are the realities of 2020. Nobody planned for
a lot of things.
Development, like I said, I have to study the people I work with and I have to study their own business strategy so that I'm able to match up with what they're trying to deliver. So when it takes too long for a project to be delivered, already my own bells start ringing that, okay, because most projects, once they start going on for too long, there's always a red flag in my head that, okay, is it a cash flow issue? Is it what's the actual issue? Why is this project not going as fast as it should? Because I've seen from 7 terraces, I've done 40 units, I've done volume, so I know when I should be having the alarm bells, okay, there's a problem here. You have to know when to exit. But generally, I'm that's the reason. Amara, sometimes we introduce Amara as a kind of very seasoned real estate agent to some of my developer friends and be like, because them selling is good for business.
Absolutely.
So I'm not the typical. I'm not an artisan or whatever I say. Just take your money and run. I'm trying to. Everybody should be happy. Everybody should be growing. Everybody should be thriving. So that's how I work. It's not just about, so if you tell me to do windows in Ikoyi, I'll tell you, you can't do general system here. These guys that are keying into your property will be looking for some special kind of windows. They're looking for EBM, IEP. They're looking for special systems that can provide unique solutions and look better and don't have mitre issues or scratches and all that. So I'm really, like I said, I work very closely with all my clients to try and make sure that everybody's winning.
Okay, fantastic. Everybody should be happy. Everybody should be growing. Everybody should be thriving. Quote by Opeyemi Ibrahim. All right, guys, after the break, we'll be getting more of this conversation. See you guys soon.
We are the wind in the sails of your business. We are your compass. Chart your course towards your targets. Africa Business Radio. Towards a profitable Africa.
You're listening to Lagos Landlord, an exclusive podcast for real estate investors and players in the real estate industry with your host, Amara Musa.
All right, everyone, welcome back to Lagos Landlord. I am here with Mr. Dayo Olaya, Managing Director of DPDC, and Mr. Opeyemi Ibrahim. For those of us just joining us today, we are discussing about the effect of rising cost of building materials on property developments. Now, Mr. Olaya, earlier on we had a brief talk about labor. Opeyemi raised the issue of labor being very, well, is that an issue? Labor is cheap. That's great.
Affordable.
Everyone's affordable. And in some countries cheap. So have you had to make some sacrifices on labor to accommodate the rising cost of materials, like cutting pay or cutting manpower? Have you had to make any of those kind of adjustments?
When it comes to labor, you can't do much of that, because if you do that, then you get substandard quality in terms of work delivery. So what you try to do is do small stringent negotiations with your suppliers like Opeyemi to make sure they can get the best of them. In some instances, when you do hard negotiation, you might even need to give them some upfront payment to get them to come down on their prices, so that whilst you want a good deal, you need to give something to them to work with as well.
Okay, so they're warning you.
Fair enough. Yeah, it's always it has to kind of balance in some sense.
Yes, exactly.
Because if you try and cut down on labor, what happens is that you get artisans who don't give you good quality. You get suppliers who just want to get their pay and move. But you want people you need to work with, like he said earlier on. It's important for you to have partners that you work with on every item long term, so it takes up the burden. And so when you have issues of price problem, they understand the market. You need to come back together, look at it together, and see where you can give incentives to each other to make it easy so I can deliver, because the market only has a bracket. Once you get to a particular price bracket, you begin to leave a lot of people per product you're selling. So you know what the market can afford, and you will try to work to make sure you're delivering good quality at that price point for the market.
Fantastic. Thank you for that apt response. Okay. Now I'm going to say something from an article I read published by Business Year, and it stated that between 2015 and 2020, it is estimated that Nigeria will need more than 20 million new homes. But if this target is to be met, Nigeria's steel, glass and iron industries will need to match the rise seen in cement, or Nigeria will be overly dependent upon costly imports. Now, what are the constraints in the delivery of glass? Why can't the supply be a match to cement? I mean, we need windows, don't we?
Well, Nigeria is, like I said, there's no textbook scenario here. Our government policies are not consistent. I don't want to get into the problems of Nigeria. I think it's another show. But like I said, it's the demand will be met.
Yeah,
we have developers that are ambitious, like Mr. Dayo, and we have a lot of seasoned entrepreneurs, and solutions is the name of the game in Nigeria.
Absolutely.
People are not sleeping, so you're dedicated to your work, trying to provide a solution, churning out houses. Developers are churning out houses by the hundreds every year. So it's really a matter of the strategy. Now, as regards the cost of imports and everything, the dollar rising, like the dollar is almost 500 naira now to $1. Of course, that's going to have an impact. It has a direct impact on the cost of the accessories and the windows that we use and everything that we use. So what's the compromise? You see, there'll be a lot of corners that people will start taking, like, let me just say, cheat the system, because instead of bringing in pure stainless steel now, we're going to be mixing it with like alloys, nickel, things like that. You won't get all those old school windows and old school materials that will give you that longevity or like before. The truth is, now people like us, IAP, have to now start looking at direct imports now, because what they're selling in the open market, it's questionable. And in the end, the client only knows us. They don't know that,
the dynamics
I'm a fabricator with a factory, but I'm putting together things and I'm buying from the open market.
Interesting.
Even though I have relationships with my suppliers, my suppliers are like, I'm not going to bring in things they cannot sell. They have to bring in things that can move. Now you're bringing in this quality product that is now still $30 that it used to be. But in Nigeria, $30 of 20 years ago, $150 and the 20 or 100, and now it's now like 465, 75. So they're like, how am I going to sell this thing when it lands? Even what they sold it at before does not allow them to buy back the new stock. So you see, the conundrum is
a lot. Like you said, a totally different show. You're right.
Now, you want to do the right thing.
Yes.
You need liquidity. Are the banks assisting SMEs on that level? What collateral do they really have? When it lands here, they have the issues at the port again. So it's just like one problem to the other. Even the supplier is a genius in Nigeria, trying to sustain himself.
Interesting.
So all those things lead to people like me having to try and think, okay, I don't want to supply things that the screws will start looking rusty after like 5 months.
You want to supply
I want something that I can walk back to and have a nice conversation and be like, I did that,
Interesting.
It's more than, like I said, it's always about providing utility for me. I don't want to be associated with anything that gives me
inferior.
any kind of bad press.
Okay, bad press. Check you out of where bad press.
Okay, let's say like bad feedback.
Okay, Mr. Olaya. Now, the bottom of the gist, or like Nigerians like to say, the cocoa of the matter. What's happening to the prices of your properties pre-COVID and post-COVID? Has anything changed in this regard?
Well, during COVID, we saw dollar go from 360 to 460. And that has immensely affected the cost of production, because most of the items we use, like I said, are imported, tiles and a few other things. So what most people have decided to do or look at options, local options, and that's why we depend on people like him, and we need things that are long lasting. But in terms of people, the clients' reaction, the clients are still there, just that they be more discerning, looking for the good deals. And so it's a challenge when you have dollar price going up, rising cost of production, and clients who are very few now are looking for good deals, which is hard to find, because there's a dilemma where you have increase in dollar, rising costs in materials made locally, and that of and the market itself. So right now, after COVID, what we have is people are reconsidering. Although you've had a lot of people come from abroad, and I see a lot of clients come from abroad now because their currency can afford much more. So you have a lot more people coming in from out of town to buy property locally. But in terms of what you get from the Nigerian market is still there, but not as strong as it used to be.
Okay, but have your prices changed though?
Prices, you have to work with it. That's why we're developers. You need to make sure that if you miss out on the price point, then it becomes unaffordable. What are you producing for? So what you need to do is begin to look at ways to find better solutions.
As opposed to increasing the price. Yes.
So you get lesser profit, which is fine, but you need to keep the client and be able to do more.
Interesting. Okay. Be able to get to do more for the clients. Okay. Have any of your clients that engaged you halted or paused their projects because of the rising cost? Have they been affected in that hard? Well, not like Mr. Olaya. Mr. Olaya is always on a rise.
Well, developers will always develop. So like I said, I do a lot of fit outs as well. So there would have been some banks. Now everyone's working from home. Why am I fitting out my office?
Yeah.
Why am I putting chairs? Why am I making the place look fancy? Why am I bringing it to?
Okay, so people are becoming more prudent
prudent. Just let's wait for COVID to take a chill pill.
Okay, so they're observing.
They're observing. So that would have been on fit outs. There will have been a lot of, let's reassess the situation. Let's watch this year. Some people actually paused their project, not stopped really. Just kind of let's watch this system. Let's watch this year. Let's come back in 2021. Honestly, I don't think the strategy is to stop. Because how do you just switch off a business, a development? Like I said, it staying still and not moving has its own advantages and disadvantages. So you have to know what your strategy is, in a sense. Like I said, are you going to go through it? Because in my own mind, I always think you just box straight. I don't believe I'm going to start letting people go and panicking. I don't even believe in the word recession. I only believe in energy. You put in more energy. It's not working. It's a tough country. Big deal. It's always been tough. Yeah. The challenges are always here. Nigeria has never been
It gets tough.
Exactly. It's never been anyone that chooses to do business or be an entrepreneur knows that every day it's a boxing match, in a sense.
Okay. Boxing match. Who's going to win then? Who do you think is going to win that match?
I think the workaholic is going to win.
The workaholic. So everyone on this table.
Exactly.
Great.
Mr. Dara is going to win. Anyone that is consistently putting in the work.
The buyers are winning at the moment.
Exactly. All right, fantastic. Exactly. So finally, and just before we go, Mr. Olaya, what role should the government play in supporting developers and manufacturers in reducing the cost of materials and production?
Policies. We take an instance. We're doing projects right now. We used to buy tiles at a certain amount, maybe a few years back. Average tile, maybe 6,000 naira per square meter, thereabouts. And with the dollar increase, it would have gone worse. But with good policies from government in that regard, a lot of more foreigners have started setting up factories in Nigeria to manufacture tiles. And the tiles are manufacturing at good standards because most of the raw materials needed for those tiles are local material. We own those material. So with that production, with the policies made to encourage the manufacturing, it has brought down cost of tiling. So, for instance, rather than using the tile everywhere that's expensive, I can slow it down and put imported tiles in certain areas of the house and put locally made tiles in areas where I have less volume. Even though the tiles are good, they're very good.
So there's some very good local brands.
Yes.
CDK is doing really well.
CDK Royal is doing good as well. Okay. So those ones will work very well, and they will compete. I dare say that they will compete with international
brands. Correct. Fantastic. Honestly,
so policies from government to encourage that goes a long way. Also incentives for importers, different materials, things you import into Nigeria, they should be given. Like what you read from the article, which says there's a deficit. The government needs to encourage production, and to encourage production, you need to make policies available and incentives for those who are going to be importing those items needed for housing, because house is a fundamental issue for every one of us. Good accommodation is important. So with good policies and incentives to those in that industry, tax rebates, that would help encourage and minimize, and that will encourage the developers as well.
All right, so the government needs to encourage production by making good policies and incentives. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for this session. It has been absolutely delightful. I have had fun. Have you had fun?
Yeah, had fun. Thank you for having us.
Great.
Thank you so much, Paul.
And for my listeners who are listening in, thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to get the best properties on the Lagos market at Ren_Regent. And to get to know about me a bit better and to connect, be sure to follow me on my Instagram page at amaramusa_. Do you gentlemen have social media handles? Can you share it with us?
Sure, it's IAP_building_solutions.
Okay, and Mr. Alaya?
Dayola Property on Instagram.
Okay.
Dayola123.
Dayola123. I mean, that really summarizes Mr. Alaya, doesn't it? All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, toodle-doo.
You're listening to Lagos Landlord, an exclusive podcast for real estate investors and players in the real estate industry with your host, Amara Musa.
You're listening to Africa Business Radio, where you get up-to-date insights on the Africa business landscape. Log on to www.africabusinessradio.com. Your favorite shows are available on podcasts. Download them on our website and mobile app. Africa Business Radio, towards a profitable Africa.